It's time to ride it. 3, 2, 1, let's get it. Come on, pull up a chair.
I don't know. Hello. Welcome. I'm back at it again with an essay. I'm doing another little bit of talking points. I had the realization I missed a couple of mediums. I wanted to talk about them because they are very important. One of them I have no experience in, but yes, but the other one I've dabbled. But before we get into that, sorry Braydan and I missed last week. It just didn't work out. Braydan's been very busy. Life has been throwing a lot at him, which is why he's not here today. And before I continue, I'm gonna turn the ceiling fan off. Yeah. Anyway, Brayden's been very busy. I'm gonna do my best to kind of keep giving y'all some fun storytelling content. We both have ideas in the works, but until he gets back and he's good to go, which could very well be next week. It could be in a couple weeks. Unsure at the moment. We're gonna leave that open-ended. But if we're both back next week, great. Yeah, I'm gonna try and keep everything going for a little bit, and we'll see what happens. And we're gonna have some fun. It's hot in here. Oh, that's better. Okay. Narrative mediums. In the last video, where I was kind of talking one-on-one with y'all about things, I covered screenplays, novels, stage plays. I think I touched on journalism and maybe mentioned music, but there are two others that I've thought of recently that I wish I had touched on. So I want to touch on them. Which means this video might be shorter, but I don't know. We'll see. Maybe I talk a lot about these two things. The first one. We're going to do this one first. This is the nerdiest you're ever going to hear me be. Dungeons and Dragons. Now, you might be familiar with movie with Chris Pine that came out a few years ago, and that is kind of what I'm talking about. So Dungeons and Dragons, for those of you that don't know, is a tabletop game that is run by somebody that creates a story and populates it with enemies and characters, and it's kind of everybody's participating in like a form of acting, kind of a role-playing thing, to simulate a story that all of the players can enjoy. It involves lots of dice and math and stuff that I have a hard time understanding, but I've played D&D before, and it's a lot of fun. I didn't know what I was doing with all the dice and whatnot. People were helping me. It was like I was a little toddler, but it's fine. It was fun. The storytelling, this is a narrative medium. This is, and for those of you that have been around for a while, in season 1 of the Writer's Room, we had my personal friend Kane on the show. He's a big fan of D&D, and he essentially introduced me to it, and he was the dungeon master who created this world. D&D is a lot of world building. And it takes a lot of commitment and a lot of motivation to kind of keep that running. And it can take a lot of improvising too, because what you're doing essentially is you're creating this world and you're creating a story, but the players don't have to follow that story, and depending on their roles, they can actually interrupt and destroy that story. It's very possible for you to create a villain that's meant to be like, oh, he's the main bad guy for the whole story. But then a player rolls high, and all of a sudden that villain is dead. So you have to be able to improvise. Oh, I no longer have anything that I've planned. I'm gonna come up with a few activities for them to do, and then before the next D&D session, I'll come up with a new overarching villain plot, I guess. I know I ruined Kane's campaign a couple of times when I played with him. The beauty of D&D is most people think it's dramatic fantasy, dragons and knights and magic people and whatnot. That's not necessarily true. It can be anything. You just have to kind of adapt to your genre. It can be scary, it can be funny. In the case of when I played with Kane and some other buddies of mine, we did a fantasy comedy in which the world was serious, but our characters were not. I played an erotic novelist named Tom, and I was a bard who didn't use any spells, but instead essentially seduced as many enemies as I could instead of fighting them. And it ruined several combat encounters. I single-handedly defeated a boss by seducing all of the enemies. So that's kind of the beauty of D&D though, right? Is the role of the dungeon master is to express creativity and make something fun for the players and keep the players engaged. While the players are able to, their whole role is, it's almost like a video game. It's to explore the limits of this world as far as the DM allows. But I mean, typically if you have a good DM, there are no limitations. So it's a narrative form, but it's made in such a way that nothing is set in stone. It's a very fun and interesting, and I've actually tried to put together campaigns. It hasn't quite worked out in the way I wanted it to. It's hard to get a group of people together, I find, and you have to do that once a week. But I've been trying. I've wanted to dabble in something like that for a while. But I mean, that's D&D for you, you know. So that's kind of a narrative medium I thought was interesting, and people don't know. A lot of people don't know about the tabletop narrative medium, and I think it's underappreciated because it's not like you're doing that to make. I mean, I guess there are probably jobs out there where people hire a DM to play D&D, but a lot of the time it's just a group of buddies, and you're getting together, and the DM's doing a lot of work so that the players can have fun, but they're doing it because they like to express their creativity. That's one of two. The second, video games in general. I've never written a video game, but I've played many a video game, and I have enough storytelling comprehension to know you can't tell a story in any other medium quite like a video game can. The way video games can tell stories, and it's not the same with every game. Some games are more like movies, where you're doing the gameplay, but then between gameplay is a cutscene that tells a narrative story that's very linear. You follow the path and you go from Act 1 to Act 2 to Act 3, and that's it. the next step up from that is, what's a good example? Let's bring Cyberpunk back, because I talked about that in the world building video. Cyberpunk isn't my favorite story in the world, personally, but it does kind of branch out. It has several endings to it, and it's a very more pick your own adventure. So, but it's still it's still narrative. It's still very linear in that you pick your path and you get to the consequences of your choices, essentially. Another form in video games is environmental storytelling. Dark Souls and Elden Ring is notorious for this, where you will explore this world, you'll see a ruined church, and you'll go pick up a special item, and then you'll read the description of that item, and it'll give you some history. Skyrim's very good at this too. The Elder Scrolls games are very good at this. The difference between Elder Scrolls and like Dark Souls is in Elder Scrolls you can talk to like a lot more people, and Dark Souls is there's not a lot of people to talk to. Most of what you're doing to learn about this world is you'll defeat an important enemy maybe, and you'll pick up their weapon or whatever, or you'll I'm not going to get into the complexities of how to get a Dark Souls boss weapon, but you'll get their boss weapon and you'll read the description, and it will tell you the history of that. Essentially, it's a whole character. It's almost more like you get your objectives, and then you kind of just have to observe and just look around at what the world is. And then there will be, if we stick with Dark Souls, there are points where you'll still get a cutscene that kind of is just like, okay, you've completed some of these objectives. Let's talk about what you've done. Let's get to what's the next step now that you've done this. Have you created new consequences for this world? What's happening now? So that's a real thing. But so then if we let's go back to like Elder Scrolls, Skyrim, Oblivion. For that, it's similar to like Cyberpunk in that it has a linear story to it, but it has so many side stories. So does Cyberpunk. So, I mean, it's oddly enough, the Elder Scrolls and Cyberpunk are very similar in their storytelling styles. They both have these things that you can read that are just scattered everywhere. Skyrim has so many history books, and then also just books in general that aren't history. They're just like, I think there's a thief book you read how to be a better thief or whatever, like lock picking and whatnot. And then there's fictitious stories in like Skyrim, which means somebody had to like sit down and like come up with fictional novels. They're short novels to be fair, but still, it's to populate a world with all that. It's impressive, and it's storytelling within storytelling. In like TV, movies, there's at most one main plot for sure, but then at the most maybe in a TV show it's usually one subplot, maybe two. In a movie, maybe 2 or 3, 4 maybe I've seen. It depends on the movie, it depends on the filmmaker. Same with TV shows, depends on the showrunner and the writers. But with a video game, you have your main story missions, and then you have your side missions, and each side mission is its own story, or it connects to the main story. So it's almost like hundreds of B plots in a sense. It's able to capture narratives to a degree that is just so impressive and amazing to me. And I was just like, it is criminal that I didn't mention this in the last one. But the last video essay was also a little long for my taste, so it's probably best to split this up. So that's kind of covering what I wanted to add here. There's probably more to video games that I've missed, but I also know that Braydan and I are planning to do some things relating to video games. We really want to. We feel like there's a whole audience for learning about how storytelling works in video games, and we want to see if we can tackle that a bit further. So keep an eye out. Look forward to things in the future. But I did want to kind of touch on it in one of our special, because I love spending time with y'all. Yeah. But anyway, we're gonna wrap this up. I hope y'all are having a great day. Hopefully things will be back to normal with the podcast soon. But until that day comes, feel free to leave a like, leave a dislike. Make sure you give feedback in the comments on dislike, or if you like. I mean, either way, whatever you liked and whatever you didn't like. That way I know how to improve. You know how it is. Be sure to check out Instagram. I think the reels have slowed down a little bit, but they're still there. We have YouTube Shorts up. We have a TikTok. Check out all the social medias. They're fun. Go ahead and if you find yourself kind of searching us up, checking out the new vids, hit subscribe. We'll show up on your homepage because you know how the algorithm is. Hit that bell and whatever else YouTubers say. I don't know. Oh, and then comment any ideas you have. If you want to learn about a storytelling thing that maybe I've forgotten about like this time, or maybe if you have an idea for a sketch or something for the podcast, stories, short films. I want to talk about short films on here too, at some point, but I also don't feel like I'm qualified just yet. I'm learning a lot. I'm taking a class right now and I'm learning a lot, and I really want to touch on some of the things I'm learning. So we'll see. It's very complex. It's more complex than you'd think, actually. So, but yeah, on that note, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see y'all in the next one.